through what I'm supposed to talk about today, which is language. And I want you all to know that it's very important because as mental health advocates, the language you use determines if you're a mental health advocate or not, because you don't want to be caught saying the things you're not supposed to say. And that's why it's very important that we talk about language. So to start with, I'm going to give two examples that is going to give you a mental picture of why language is important. So saying someone, okay, she is mentally unstable, and saying she's experiencing intense emotional distress. The two sentence basically means the same thing. And normally you would be mostly inclined to say, oh, she's mentally unstable, which is something that you must have heard before. But the correct thing to say is she's experiencing intense emotional distress. And why is this? Because these two are same situation, right? But then they have different emotional impact. The languages gives different emotional impact. One labels a person, the other describes the experience. So when you say someone is mentally unstable, you are labeling that person as mentally unstable. But when you say the person is experiencing intense emotional distress, you are explaining the situation, you are explaining the experience. Now, what is language framing? Language framing is simply the mental lens created by the word choice. And why I say mental lens created by the word choice is because, going back to the first example I cited, when someone near you says, oh, this person is mentally unstable, trust me, the first thing that comes to your mind will be maybe, oh, maybe this person is in tattered clothes. And that's because of how we've conditioned this word to sound like. But then when the person say she's experiencing intense emotional distress, you're going to have a mental picture of, okay, this is something in the mind. The person is going through a lot. The person is, I mean, the way you're going to picture the whole thing will be way different. And so this is why language framing is very important, because it influences how people interpret cause. So when you say someone, so for example, you say someone is weak, or you say someone is dealing with a mental health condition, there are two different things. Also, it interprets how people see control. Can you say, oh, the person can't cope, or the person needs support? When you say the person can't cope, the mental picture is, oh, the person, they've tried all method. The person in fact, you don't even know where to start from in terms of picturing what the person needs. But then when they say the person needs support, you have a mental picture of what the person needs. Also, it's influences how people interpret permanence. So the word that is being used determine whether the person would sound like, oh, maybe the person is broken, or the person is recovering, or it's a forever thing. And that's because when you say, which is something I'm going to make mention of, when you say someone is depressed and someone is living with depression, someone is depressed, apart from labeling that person as depressed, it doesn't sound like maybe the person has another life apart from depression. It doesn't sound like the person might recover. But then when you say the person lives with depression, that is not that person's identity. The person can recover. Also, most importantly, language framing influences how we interpret identity. Back to my example of depressed person living, or person living with depression, the person's identity, the way you see that person, is different. The thing is, with humans, we tend to categorize people first, and because of labels now become shortcuts, and that shortcut now becomes our belief. So when we've labeled, oh, this person is a mentally unstable person, automatically that's just how we believe things, because that's how, like, we've been conditioned to see. There's no description, there's no explanation to, oh, this is the context to which this person is experiencing this certain condition to. It's just mentally unstable. And that's why we keep insisting that the word mad or crazy should not be used when we are talking about mental health conditions, when we are referring to people living with mental health conditions, because it is so, it is demeaning, and it is not even helping us in any way. It is not allowing us to get to the roots of the matter in terms of mental health support or mental health care. And when we talk about language, we want to know that there's difference between person first and identity reducing language. So when you say identity reducing language, then you're saying, oh, He is schizophrenic. She is an addict. He is bipolar. These are mentally ill people. So these are identity reducing languages. But then when we now want to say person first language, we now say, oh, he is living with schizophrenia rather than he is schizophrenic. She is experiencing substance dependence rather than she is an addict. Now, notice how she's an addict doesn't give context, but then she is experiencing substance dependence gives context, because so now we understand that this person is dealing with dependency on a particular substance. Also, something like when we say person first language, we also mean like saying, rather than saying a bipolar person or he's bipolar, then we say the person is managing bipolar disorder, the person lives with bipolar disorder. Also, rather than saying mentally ill people, the person is these are people experiencing mental health challenges. So, or these are mad people, as we would normally say. Instead, we say experiencing, these are people experiencing mental health challenges, because it can vary. There can be people with PTSD, there can be people with people living with schizophrenia, people living with bipolar disorder. The thing is, with disorder, the disorder is what they have, not what they are. And so that if you are going to use any language at any point, that's something you should have at the back of your mind. Are you the language you are using? Is it saying this is what this is who they are, this is their person, or this is what they have, this is what they are dealing with? That's something. If in case if you want to see how you're going to put the language together. So, for example, the person has PTSD, or the person lives with PTSD. You want to know, are you saying that this is what they have, this is what they are dealing with, or this is who they are? The person is traumatic, the person is has the person is a traumatic person, or the person lives with PTSD, the person lives with post traumatic disorder. When we talk about reframing common phrases that we usually talk about, it usually has different purpose. And so an example of, rather than saying maybe attention seeking, instead of using the word attention seeking, and instead you say seeking support, it's that seeking support as an alternative recognizes unmet needs. So as attention seeking, what what exactly is the attention the person is seeking? But then when you say seeking support, that's more specific. Also, non-compliant patients, it tends to sound like you are blaming the person. But then when you say treatment, when you say the person is facing barriers to treatment, that's more explanatory. Also, failed treatment is different from treatment did not meet their needs, because now we are talking about preserving that person's dignity. When a person is told that, oh, their treatment failed, or the treatment that was implemented, that was done for them, failed, it sounds like, oh, okay, I mean, is it that there's no hope for recovery or anything? But then when it is said that the treatment did not meet their needs, that's different. Also, rather than saying victim of mental illness, you say person is managing a mental health condition. And the thing is, now you would say that, oh, okay, are we trying to deny the person's situation when we use positive language, when we use language framing to say these things? But we're not trying to deny the situations. We're not trying to pretend that everything is fine. We're not trying to avoid the difficult realities. We're not even trying to exaggerate hope. We're not trying to minimize pain. That's not what we're using the language to do. Rather, we're trying to give accurate descriptions. We're trying to be respectful, and we're also trying to let people know that there's possibility of improvement. If you say someone is bipolar, it definitely does not sound like there is hope. Does not sound like there's room for improvement. But when you say the person lives with bipolar, it means that tomorrow the person might not live with the bipolar again, and so the person was never and should not be addressed as a bipolar person. Rather, they live with bipolar. And so this is like why the languages are important. So this is like an intro to how you can navigate words. And another example is committing suicide. So we avoid using the phrase committing suicide, because we are not trying to let suicide be a criminal offense. Currently in Nigeria, we're trying to decriminalize suicide, because currently in Nigeria, people who attempt suicide, they get sentenced because that suicide was not successful. So in order for us not to make suicide seem like a criminal issue, we should avoid words that make it sound like a criminal offense. So, and that's why we have issue with saying committed suicide. Rather, you say died by suicide. That's a more positive language phrase to use. So, and there are other words, but then these are just the basic that as a mental health advocate you should be very particular about. So if you're in public and you're saying, oh, depressed people who are depressed, rather you say people who live with depression. You have to be very careful with these terminologies. So that's all. But then to learn further and to read further, I would advise that you check WHO materials. They give detailed guidance on how to speak um in better, in positive languages when it comes to mental health, and how to be a better mental health communicator, how to use respectful, person-centered language, because at the end of the day, stigma directly, when these words, they bring about, they increase the rate of stigma, which in turn reduces help-seeking behavior. So, and that's why it's very important that we watch what we say in terms of addressing mental health related things. Thank you so much.
Wow, I think she gave a very beautiful crash course on everything that I feel like you guys need to hear in such a short period of time. So now, please let's send clapping emojis. Let's send emojis to show that we were together. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Great. All right. So if we have questions, please raise your hands. If you have questions, comments, feedbacks, please raise your hand so that we can get into that.
So sorry, I'm actually my thoughts, my mind is divided. I'm actually in church because we have a program, but I'm listening with my AirPod. There are some things that I picked and I could not. I wrote them half half, but so I want to ask if to be sure if I wrote down the right thing. Someone is the press. You said that is she said that is an identity reducing language. So when we say someone is living with depression, what do we call like I I want to know what that explanation is. If we say okay, someone is like I don't know if my question is coming.
Yeah, yeah, I think I understand your question.
Yes,
So when you
yes,
say,
ma'am.
so the opposite is person first. So you're putting the person first, and so in the way
Okay,
you're saying it, so you say person living with depression. So you are prioritizing the person rather
okay,
than
ma'am.
making it their identity, and in turn reducing their identity.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Welcome.
That's all. Thank you, ma'am.
Also, sorry, something that I even forgot to mention is that another common phrase that we usually use is, "Oh, he suffers from depression." He suffers from depression is also very wrong, because it's making it seem like it doesn't, it's still identity reducing, and it's not a positive language. So still, rather than the person is suffering from depression, it's still the person is living with depression, because the suffering is conditioning it like, oh, okay, once you have depression, it's suffering. And for it's not applicable for everybody. Not everyone suffers from suffers with depression, or it doesn't even, it's not even a suffering thing. It's not a suffering thing. We don't say people suffer from malaria. I mean, so like the word, and it's also very, it contains stigma. So when you hear, oh, the person suffers from depression, it's like, ah, this person, just, they don't want to know the context to the depression. They don't want to know what depression means. It just sends a negative connection to to suffering. Is also something that we shouldn't say. Suffering from a mental health condition, it's also wrong. Thank you.
Yes, please go ahead, Obi.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, Shola and RB. Yeah, you talked very extensively regarding the positive, using positive language. So, what I wanted to chip in as per the regarding the question that someone just asked. Now, when you say when you're talking to people with different mental health challenges, you should be intentional to in highlighting their strength and reducing the weaknesses as much as possible. Not that the weakness is not there, but highlighting those strengths, builds their resilience, gives the person a sense of hope. Now, when you say the person is living with depression, now for someone to live, it means you're striving. So I mean, you're living with depression. Yes, you're just saying, yes, you have depression, but you still live. You can still thrive with the right resources, with the right intervention, with the right medication. You can still function. So that is what that sentence is just telling the person. You're living with depression. Yes, you have depression, but you're still living. You're still functioning. You just need the right medication. You need the right intervention. You need the right resources. So that's why even if you're not talking about the issues and the challenges they have, anytime you're talking to them, you try as much as possible to try to highlight their strengths so that they don't focus more on their weaknesses but focus more on their strength. That would improve and increase their level of functionality. So yes, so that's I just wanted to add that regarding the question that someone asked. Thank you.
Okay, I think that's very important to note. So, do we have any other questions that we want to ask before we go ahead? Okay, I believe we don't have any questions. Okay, now at this point, I have one question for everybody. So, for each of you, I want you to tell me at least one or two things, at least one thing, but it can be as high as two things that you've learned from our interactions the last 3 weeks or so now. So start from Adam, then we'll go to Aderisola, then Khadijat, then Mariam, then Anita. So Adams, please go ahead, sir.
Um, I would honestly confess that I have not been active in the past sessions because I've been having exams back to back. But I would say today I've really learned a lot about like how language framing can either support or like mar a person's identity when they are struggling with mental health issues. And one thing that really resonated with me was the aspect of not phrasing a person as a person's situation in the sense of the particular example she gave being committing suicide, like it phrases it as a criminal offense, which makes it a crime. And there was another point where she mentioned something like saying, oh, suicide was not successful, which makes it feel like it's a failure, like the person wasn't able to actually get into committing suicide. So this also like drags the person's worth down. So I think that was something that really resonated with me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing that. I think that's important for us all to know. All right, so next up, who else would like to share? Aderisola has vanished too. Okay. Mariam says, I learned that you should not diagnose people or name what you think is their mental health condition. Refer them to professionals. Yes, that is very essential for us all to know. Um, okay. Khadija, would you like to share something you've learned over the last 3 weeks? Khadija, can you hear me, please? Okay, no problem. All right. So Anita, would you like to share what you've learned in the last 3 weeks?
Okay, so for me, I have if I said I've not learned a lot, I have learned a lot. So I have been working on a mental health resource book, and I after each lessons and class, I went back to check the two kids, and I saw that okay, it's a bit in alignment, but there are things that needs to be changed. I honestly did not know about mental health languages. I didn't know there was anything like that. So even when I'm creating my videos, I just say my things. I use the word raw as it is, and knowing these things and knowing that okay, I've been saying it wrongly, it's eye opening for me, and that's why I'm taking down every single point, so that when I'm going to schools teaching children these things, I'm not saying the wrong thing. When I say, oh, I want to advocate, I can't be saying I want to advocate for something and I'm not using the right terms. Yeah, so I would say it's been very, very enlightening, and it's greatly enhancing the things that are actually going to do in the next couple of months. I would say 1 to 2 months from now. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, that's lovely. That's super lovely. All right. Let me see. I want to see if there's anybody that I've not asked yet. Adelinsola, is there anything you've learned from our interactions that you'd like to share that is a takeaway for you personally?
Good evening.
Hi.
Good evening. Good evening. I don't know, but like what really reached out to me was today's class. I really liked what she taught us, and I was really interested in hearing what she had to say, because I don't know, it was something like very new to me. Like the other classes, they are new, but like there are things that I have like just a little idea. There are things I know of already. But this one was something new, and how to talk to people and how to like the languages we should use. So yes, I really like that was very nice.
Okay, okay. That's good. Thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate that. Um, okay, Khadija said, I learned how important advocacy in this field truly is, how patient drives progress, and this session personally put my mind to mental health languages and how to really balance it out. Overall, it has been in fact impactful and eye-opening. I'm glad to be a part of these conversations. Hmm, okay, that's beautiful to read. Thank you so much. All right, so I'm glad to see that we've all taken one thing or the other from either just this session or all the sessions the last couple of weeks. And it has been a very interesting couple of weeks to watch and learn and hear and grow with you all. I think the most important thing, if I were to summarize what I think we can take away from these 3 weeks, are first things first is you can be a mental health advocate. You don't have to be a clinical psychologist, a licensed professional, or anything like that. You can advocate for mental health awareness. You can advocate for mental health overall. That's the first and most important thing. All you have to do is care about it and speak up about it. And there you go. You're a mental health advocate, just like every one of us. Second thing is, as a mental health advocate, there are limits to the things you can and cannot do. You are not supposed to, and you are not allowed to diagnose anybody. That means you're not allowed to tell anybody, oh, I think you're suffering from depression, or I think you are schizophrenic, or I think you are bipolar. That's not your place. In places and cases where you feel like someone might be going through a couple of things, please always, always make sure that you do not play therapist, but rather you diagnose, but rather you send them to a professional that can actually diagnose the issue, that can actually provide them the level of support and help and guidance that they would require. Now, the third thing is our choices of language. So, yes, we are advocates. Yes, we know that we can't diagnose people as advocates. Now, in our advocacy journey, what kinds of words should we use? What kind of words shouldn't we use? These are things that are very important for us to also recognize. Now, with all of this, I hope we can understand that everything um on this journey moving forward is a ever growing journey. We have to keep studying, we have to keep building our capacity, we have to keep learning. So you can look up more right terminologies and phrases. Uh we can look up more things that would find good. Abby has sent something. She sent a couple of resources, and I believe that would also share a couple more things that we believe could be beneficial to you all in your advocacy journey. So keep learning, keep growing, pay attention to what's going on in this space. And I believe that all of you would make the most amazing advocates in the mental health space. So I'll let our founder, Mr. Fola, to give closing remarks. Then I'll briefly come back and talk about next steps and everything else. Over to you, sir.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. And thank you for being a part of our mental health advocacy training this past 3 weeks. I'm glad to hear that, it has been impactful one way or the other. And I'm also glad that, you've been able to learn from different facilitators, especially some of the conversations that we've had for today as well. I would love for I just want to, make a few comments regarding what you have learned. It is knowledge that you use that becomes practical, or that's wisdom. And I hope that you will harness whatever opportunity that you have to always go out there and be a successful mental health advocate. By participating in this training, you will be receiving a certificate of participation from us. But then, much more, we would have the opportunity to, I think Shola will tell us more, but we would have the opportunity to, we will provide the opportunity for you guys, anyone who is interested, to have a platform to be an advocate with us at Elite Life Consulting. What is our goal? We want to make sure that wellness, wholeness, and fulfillment is everyone's reality. And we want to do this by making sure we provide evidence-based and practical solutions to mental health care in Nigeria. And we're going to do that, using as many opportunities as we can. Write-ups, videos, podcasts, social media outreaches, in-person engagement, anywhere, any way that we can propagate mental health, we always will. So we encourage you to please use the knowledge that you have and don't allow it die down. Another thing I'd love to encourage is something that RB talked about extensively in the second week, which is self-care. If you do not start thinking about self-care from the beginning of your mental health advocacy, it might overwhelm you. And self-care includes making sure that you first, not over flogging the balance, meaning that because somebody feels like they are dying right now, right? You are going to leave everything about you all the time and not focus on you. What will happen is you will burn out. And when you burn out, you might even begin to resent working for the for positive mental health in the future. So I encourage you. One of the ways that you can practice self-care is to start thinking about what your boundaries would look like. Let me give you one example of boundary that I flaunted when I started this mental health journey. Because of how passionate I got, a lot of my clients or people who I knew were in distress had my phone number, right? And so they had initial access to me. And what I can tell you that I am still suffering from that till today, because when people are in distress, instead of them to use the coping skills that they have learned, they would rather go the short route and try to reach out to me. And so I had to walk around that several years ago to have like an official line, and to also make sure that I told the people who were reaching out to me personally that, look, if you are going through distress, please, I have a blog that I use, please reach out to our case manager, Or I tell them things like, I encourage you to book an appointment. At least then I know that I'm seeing you at the time that I choose to see you. So it's important that you create those boundaries early enough. Another boundary that is essential is, as much as you can, understand the difference between a personal relationship and a professional relationship that you'll be having with people that talk to you surrounding mental health. And I tell you, this can be a gold mine for anyone who is interested in making a career out of mental health advocacy. Meaning that if you can really advocate for mental health in your own unique way, it can be a career opportunity for you where you can get funding, or you can even get people who want to use your services, because when you propagate mental health, people become more aware and they pay for that awareness that they are getting. So I'm not going to say too much more, but I want to say thank you again for being a part of this, and I look forward to doing other things with every one of us here. Take care and enjoy the rest of your day. Shola, please take over.
All right. As always, inspiring as usual, sir. Thank you so much for that. Okay, so this is already 7 o'clock. I was planning on us using an hour, 10 minutes max today. So talking around everything, for those of you that are on this call, kindly send your full name as you would like for it to appear on your certificate of participation to me on WhatsApp. To the group chat on WhatsApp, that group chat we're all on. Just send it there, and it will be imputed on a certificate for you, and to be shared in the coming week. Now, following that, Elite Life Consulting is looking at having more people join our team of volunteers, and I would like to extend this to you all before we take it to our social media page and do calls for volunteers and people to join us. So I'd like to ask if anybody here would be interested in volunteering with Elite Life Consulting. It's not something that is full-time, don't worry. It's not something that's going to take all of your time or be so rigorous. And it's a way for you to learn more about mental health, learn from mental professionals, gain experience in the mental health space, and for you to add some more experience to your CV down the road. So if there are any persons that would be interested, kindly type in the chat box, just type me, so that we can have an idea of who you are. And then you send a text, send it into the chat box now. Send a text to the number that you can see in the chat box there as well, letting them know your name and that you'd like to volunteer with us, and we'll take it up from there. So do I have any takers? All right. Great. So just send a message to the number above to volunteer. Send a DM to that number. Let them know your full name. Tell them you're a winner from the mental competition, and tell them you like to volunteer with us. And if there's any area you feel like your skill set could be an addition to us, or it could come in handy to us, please feel free to share, and feel free to let us know these things. And we'll definitely look forward to working with each and every one of you. And I can't wait to see what we do together. This offer extends over this weekend, so think about it for those that haven't indicated interest. And then next week we'll go into planning phases, see how we can onboard you guys, and we'll move forward from there. So thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen, for your time, for your dedication and devotion the last couple of days and weeks towards this conversation, towards this learning process. To our facilitators, Obi-Wan and RB, you ladies are amazing. I appreciate you. On behalf of Elite Life, on behalf of the team, we say a huge thank you. I'm sure the volunteers are super grateful for the knowledge you've imparted on them. So thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for the knowledge. So at this point, I want to say a very good evening and a very good night to everybody. Please take care, please stay safe, and remember, an elite life starts with an elite mentality. Good night, goodbye, and take care.
phone is hanging.